Michelle Mabson, and I'm a staff scientist in healthy communities at Earthjustice. Earthjustice is our nation's largest nonprofit, public interest environmental law organization. And in my role, I work to provide technical and research expertise on environmental health and risk assessment to help inform our litigation and advocacy efforts. The Healthy Communities team works to hold polluters and the government accountable so that communities do not face undue harm from air and water pollution or exposure to toxic chemicals or waste. I work alongside other scientists and analysts, attorneys, policy experts, and communication strategists to help to advocate for stronger federal and state-based health protections. Recently, my team has worked to urge the Environmental Protection Agency to strengthen the lead and copper rule. And because of our efforts, new proposals are beginning to address the need to better protect children from the neurodevelopmental harm caused by lead, which is a major step forward. One of the reasons that I was attracted to the initiative is because of its emphasis on tackling climate-related challenges. As a Bloomberg Fellow, I have the support of my organization and the incredible opportunity to collaborate with other fellows and their organizations, professors, and staff to address the environmental challenges that affect the communities that I work with.
Please welcome founder and executive director of the Environmental Justice Coalition, Rhea Goswami, in conversation with the director of the Bullard Center Environmental and Climate Justice at Texas Southern University, Dr. Robert Bullard.
Hello, everybody. Can you see us? I can see you. This is a conversation between a Gen Zer, Zoomer, Rhea, and myself, a Boomer. Proud of it, still standing. So let's get into it, this intergenerational conversation, quickly. First, I have a question, Rhea. Growing up in the age of climate crisis and the urgency of what's happening today, how do you see your work changing, and how do you get more young people involved in this movement?
Yeah, so this is a question we get asked a lot, and I think the biggest thing to emphasize is the fact that the climate crisis is what actually propelled us into this movement in the first place. My interest in environmental justice stemmed from seeing these crises happen in marginalized communities, as well as talking to these communities and people who are directly involved in the work of these communities. Climate anxiety, although very eminent and frightening at times, is what's propelling these youth to create some unique solutions, create amazing nonprofits and work, and really use their voice to do things. And that's what the climate anxiety and a lot of these climate crises have caused. And empowering youth to bridge the generational gap and help them understand important topics like environmental justice. Often when we look at inspirational figures like Dr. Bullard, we wonder how these communities who have experienced so much trauma from climate change, so much grief, how do we help them as youth, and how do youth understand all these traumas and still have hope at the end of the tunnel? And empowering youth, what does that look like? That looks like mentorship. As public health professionals, the best thing you can do is extend your hand, extend your network, and show youth that there is a path forward. And not only public health professionals, it can be anyone. And as Dr. Bullard told me, it's extending a baton as if like in a relay race between the generations. And he's run it for so long, and having that hope that the next generation will pick up that baton and continue running and have that stamina, have that endurance to propel themselves through the movement and have that hope as well. It's seeing that people trust our voice, trust our knowledge, trust the solutions we have and the things that we bring to the table that really empower youth. And it shows youth that you don't necessarily have to be involved in policy, advocacy, be a grassroots activist. Don't have to be a STEM major. You can be in marketing, graphic design. Climate change is such an intergenerational, it's an interdisciplinary movement, really. And it's just showing youth all of these things that helps empower them. So Dr. Bullard, I have a question for you.
Oh, okay. You had all the answers.
Oh, I'm sure.
Thank you.
As someone so pivotal in this movement, as we love to call you the father of environmental justice, how do you think that the work of environmental justice has changed throughout the 3 decades you've been involved? And what has stayed the same, whether it be in pop culture, media, how we talk about environmental justice?
Well, I started way back in 1979 when environmental justice was not even a concept. It was a footnote. And over the 43 years, it's a headline. And I think the progress that we made is about time in terms of having a cross-disciplinary movement, intergenerational movement, young people, having the issues integrated into the curricula, college and universities, every program. And I always say any academic program at a university that does not include equity, justice, fairness, environment, and health is inadequate. So we have to make sure, thank you, we have to make sure that these issues resonate across. There is no health equity, environmental justice without racial justice. We see that happening every day now more so than ever.
Absolutely. So especially because we can see how throughout becoming headlines and environmental justice is becoming more mainstream, that's why we need to have these conversations between generations to make sure that the fight grows, the fight continues, and that we can bring more people into understanding that racial justice is for all communities, as well as, and uplifting these marginalized communities is the best thing we can do as public health professionals, as well as to improve equity and diversity within the public health field as well. So,
yeah, so good student, good student. The fact that we have now so many young people working on these issues without all these wedge issues driving us apart. What brings us together is fairness, justice, and equity. I've written 18 books over the last 40 years. It's 18 titles, but it's just one book, but don't tell anybody. The fact is, it's housing, transportation, energy, food and water security, transportation, and health. Health is at the center of all of that. Last word, Rhea.
Yeah, so what drives you and what keeps you hopeful for the future of environmental justice?
Well, young people. The fact that we cannot get this movement moving across without having young people, without having science, without having data, without having people understanding that we do not need false solutions. Oil and gas, petrochemical industries have created so much havoc on this earth, and to have, beyond petrochemical campaigns, to have issues around fairness, justice, transitioning to a clean energy economy, that's where we need to go. That's what's needed today.
We also need to educate youth, as well as Dr. Bullard has mentioned, academia especially, these spaces need to be expanded to encompass environmental justice, to encompass public health, equity, diversity, and inclusion, include voices that we haven't heard before, indigenous scholars, Black scholars, Latinx scholars, and we all want to see this. As a person in college, I would love to read more diverse literature, and that's what's most important, is diversity in education as well.
Very good. She has the last word. The clock is clicking at 0. It's time for lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.